Hello.
Hi.
So today is different again. I'm doing an episode for New Year's, and so we're going to do one of my practices, something that I've been working on in the summer. And Linda Wardal is extremely kind to come and dance with me.
Yeah, it's so nice that you asked. I'm always up for a dance.
Yeah, you said it's like being invited to the prom.
Yes, when someone sends you an email, do you want to come and dance with me? That was so lovely.
Yeah, so I think I don't need to say anything about myself. So what we're going to do is it's a practice where, so we can talk about this a little bit before we start. So you start a movement. So it actually reminds me of the practice we've done together of yours, which will come out in the next few weeks or something. So you do a movement, but you do it as slow as possible so that you forget where the movement was going. And the second you feel as though you're starting to forget, or that you've forgotten exactly what the movement was when you started it, you start a new movement and repeat. And that's it. Does that make sense?
So repeat the... okay, yeah, I get it.
You repeat the task of of doing a movement, forgetting it, and then starting a new movement. So
I'm forgetting
you
that.
always start a new movement, and the idea is somehow to try and conjure this idea of what is a movement and how do we know it, and to go so slow that all the detail of that movement starts to maybe make us hallucinate around what the movement was when we initiated it, until the point we feel like, I'm not sure what it is anymore. So then I'll go to... And it's for New Year's, so it's about forgetting and letting go and things like that. It's a very slow practice, so I'm going to suggest we do it for 15 minutes. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about it.
Great.
Cool.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was a joy to do. How was it for you? Like, where was it for you? I feel like so weak in my legs, actually. I think I had them bent a lot of the time.
Yeah, because of the slowness.
Yeah.
It got harder. Well, a lot of things came up for me. Like how slow is slow to begin with, and there's a lot of things happening when doing a movement slow. I have the feeling that what I would call one movement with time expands and becomes a lot of smaller movements within that movement.
Definitely. Yeah.
As we have time to blink in between, we have time to feel sensations, different things comes up because of that time aspect.
Yeah, even if you think of like just weight transfer, right? Like as you go slow, or as I go slower, I feel like I'm wobbling between different sides, whereas if I went fast, I think there wouldn't be as much wobble. It would just I would have the dynamic to carry me forward without deviating from the path of, say, a movement, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And which is actually happening all the time, but it goes so fast. I mean, we're all always constantly balancing.
Yes, negotiating, like having some muscles tense to just keep us standing, right? Yeah. And like your concept of a movement, was it supportive, or did you then find yourself going towards smaller movements and then trying to slow them down, like as you got caught in the finding movements within a movement type thing?
Yeah, I realized that I was, with time, I started to aim for smaller movements to see what that was.
Mm.
And it somehow became clearer to finish them.
And you managed to finish movements?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also thought about what you said about forgetting a movement. I think that works as a concept, and sometimes I really did, or I would say that I didn't really forget the original, but the original movement that I sort of imagined in my future and was aiming towards, that image became more blurry.
Yeah.
That's what's happened for me.
And that's a really nice image. For me, I was thinking about it as like, it's almost as though my mind relaxes rather than having such a strong intention or focus on maintaining what I think is to be achieved. Yeah. I relax it a little bit to allow it maybe to blur or to dissipate and to deviate from the original intention, perhaps. Yeah. Because for me, it also asks the question of like, what is forgetting, but it's a negation of what is remembering, really. Yeah. Right. And it makes me focus more on remembering than the absence in a way. Like, it gives me tools, perhaps, to think about what am I remembering and thinking. Because, also because we're not remembering a movement, we're sort of thinking to do a movement, I guess, from a memory. But still, the forgetting what I was intending, I noticed how fragmented the actual image was in the first place, and how sort of blurry, perhaps, or like like how it has almost feeling of like having holes in it. Like my memory is not that good, perhaps, or it's not as simple as I believe my memory to be, maybe.
Or it's flexible.
Yeah, exactly. But there is an impossibility in it as well, right? Because I'm asking you to forget something, and in order to forget it, you almost have to remember that you're forgetting it.
But can that impossibility be helpful? I think we're working so much with like imaginary and the impossible, and in contrast to a lot of other jobs, as I imagine it, like it's so nice to work with that as a possibility. Also. Yeah.
It's almost like we accept the ridiculous nature of dancing, and then that allows us to do things which on like that to be not fully fulfillable, but it's generative regardless, and that's why you do it anyway, sort of thing.
Yeah. But how long have you been doing this practice, and what is this practice? What does it do for you?
I started this formulation I started this summer, but it comes from an old practice, I think, where you try to remember movements that you find in the body, and you try to recreate them. And then you try to remember the recreation and try to recreate the recreation. So it has this sort of like echoing effect between the energy or the vibrations and the tensalities in the body and the memory of that. And then you're layering this sort of looped echoing. So it's like a feedback loop in a way, but with one's memory and body. And then I was working a lot on the beach in California, very romantic. And I was looking for something to do, and I was trying to connect to that and connect to some of those practices maybe. And it occurred to me, oh, what if I try to I can do whatever, but if I slow it down enough that my mind drifts or the movement drifts to the point that I'm not sure where it's going. And for me, it produces a sense of like floating, and which was really nice in these like busy environments, because the waves are so continuously crashing against the thing. There's usually like a dog walker throwing a ball and stuff, and it's very lively. And there I am, just floating. And I think like for me, it's a little bit about like how we often situate our life in these like conceptual framings. Like I know what a movement is, I know what sitting is, I know what I'm doing now, but to allow that it drifts a little bit and floats, and that I get unsure of actually what I think I'm doing. Does that make sense? Yes, I think that's where it came from or comes from. Yeah. But in a way, like I feel like it's a conversation with one's self, which I think a lot of dance is. And do you have practices like that? How is that practice for you of like talking to yourself? Like, I'm very curious, like, is it just me who spends so much time thinking about thinking when moving and trying to find scores which challenge the thinking or work with thinking? What's your experience
of thinking about thinking?
Or like when dancing, like how important is the role of concept and thought, maybe?
Yeah, a lot. I like it. Yeah, it's important. I find the beauty of this practice when I do things slow. I also notice my other thoughts that are about not this studio, but then also about the past, present, future. And I was actually thinking about this multiplicity of thoughts that comes, and some people, in this yoga where you're just supposed to observe your thoughts like clouds, but then where they can take you when you allow them to.
Yes, true. Yeah.
And I think that the slowness really helps in that, and to embrace that rather than to say that, I'm just everywhere, but things are happening constantly. And I now, just when we finished, I just wrote so many things on this paper, so trying to follow all the thoughts that comes.
Yes, and to hold them somehow.
Yeah.
Especially like when we know we're going to reflect after. I've been struggling with that a little bit, like wanting to write during, because especially if the practice is about forgetting, there's a contradiction of like, and yet I want to remember something in order to be able to speak about it.
Yeah.
And I think but then there's definitely a desire often in dancing, and there's a desire in this practice for me is to stop thinking.
Yeah.
And to be like a meditation or something. Yeah. One thing that I noticed, like, as you're describing it, is I'm wondering if slowness is the best word for it, because I say slowness, but the real intention is like to go so slow that you forget. So it's not really about being slow per se. If you if you can forget what you're doing and go fast, that's equally valid. Maybe I should think about how I word it or how I practice it to include that it's really about trying to let go of intention so that you can have intention still. You can still like want to produce movements and do a pirouette or do a whatever, but that it never has to be fulfilled. It can be let go, it can be forgotten, it can be lost to the dance itself. Yeah, I wonder. But slowness is so productive as a quality, because I feel like so much of our life is situated within a certain tempo. Yeah. And which must have to do with like just the shape and size of us, right?
And I think I used to, in the what can I maybe call it, like the beginning of my career, or like when started to dance more, I was so confused when talking about things after, because I had forgot it all. And I think I have been trained to take these mental notes or photographs of things that I think. So now, I think I decide before also if I will remember what I thought about, or if I'm just in the present moment. Yeah. But I think maybe I was a sloth in the past, because this is really my habitat of moving slowly and being in touch with all my thoughts while moving. I really love that. But another thing that came up for me was the impossibility of, because I was insisting on doing it slow, like to do a jump, for example, or a fall. While trying to forget that, because it happens so fast that it's hard to do it while forgetting it. It might even be dangerous. Yeah. Did you go into those kind of situations?
I think you're right. I think so at the beginning, I think I am like going for things which are elongated and that I can sustain in a stable way. But then I think I'm trying to find a place where I'm so much trying to figure out how all parts of the body is incorporated in the initiation, that it becomes really easy to forget, because it's a little bit too complicated to remember of all the like little spirals and twists and stuff, especially if that makes sense. But no, I should work with more dynamic movements and see how one can lose them in the thing. And what would happen? You'd reach the top of the jump and then try to forget how to land, or start moving from the middle of the jump, sort of thing, rather than it's a good question. I think I have to try. And what's your relationship like to this arbitrary end of year thing that we're approaching? I mean, I'm doing this because it's New Year's Eve, and we are coming up to this moment where we all say, let's remember and let's hope for the future. Like, how do you relate to that sort of like arbitrariness?
I mean, for the last 5 years, I think this is my 5th year now, I'm taking a 1 second video almost every day. And I love remembering things. Yeah,
so you have 365 seconds by the end of the year.
Something like that. Not so strict, but yeah.
So then you look back at it?
Yeah, and then I have done my selection, sort of.
And what kind of memory does it create or produce for you?
I mean, that will remind, I think it's important for me to remind me of like both the beauty of everyday things. Because 1 second doesn't say so much, but sometimes that really says everything, and we will forget so much. I think that's really interesting of what stays when, for example, looking back at my childhood, like there are always some memories that comes first that are stronger than others. And in a way, I think I'm then controlling what I want to keep. And not, which is, I mean, photos in general is that kind of practice.
Exactly. But it's nice having such a strong frame, because then it really does cause you to have to think about memory, remembering.
Yeah.
You're the perfect person to dance with today.
But actually I'm avoiding the, like, what am I forgetting? Or what do I then... No, I realize I just save things a lot. And even like rejections, you know, I have this folder in my email account where I just keep all the rejections I got over the year.
Yeah. But there's something, for me there's a relationship to dance.
Yeah.
In the collecting, because I genuinely feel that as a dancer we are somehow, when we enter the studio and we start dancing, we are somehow meeting with our archive, or meeting with this body which is an imprint of a lifetime in some way. And so the fact that you collect moments and aspects from your life, that it feels like you are dealing with your life in a very choreographic sense. Like what are the parts? And also I think there's something that you seem to, maybe we all do it as well, but like experiment with what are the more important things, or what, no, not more important, but like we attend, like, say, photos of events and stuff. Yeah. But what about the moment when you looked at your shoes whilst waiting for the bus every day for a year? You know, what about those moments and the impressions and the qualities they give, or just the gravel under your foot, you know, when you are standing in the street, and all the other things, of course. Yeah.
I mean, I have a funny memory. You know, it was 1997, so I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I had this very emotional feeling, like, I want to remember what it feels to be in 1997. Okay. You know, I think I thought a lot about what is time, and what is 2000 gonna be like. And so I was like, you know, when you tell your brain, or you say to yourself that, okay, I will remember this moment and I will remember the feeling of it. But of course I don't really remember the feeling, but what I do remember is how the trash cans looked like then in Sweden 1997. And they were green, and they were basically I just remember this memory of walking uphill beside this trash can that was green, and that was 1997 for me. So, like, desperately trying to hold on to something, not wanting to forget. Yeah. But I have no idea what else happened that year. Yeah. I just have that strong memory because I decided to save it in my memory bank. Yeah.
So I have a question of, like, is it, because I'm curious myself, like, can I see the 1 second a year, or is this really a personal thing?
It's I have to think about it. I think I have.
I mean, I'm not asking that you have to. I'm more curious how you think of it.
Yeah, it was. I've shared it with friends and probably on social media.
Yeah.
Because I think it's quite funny and disturbing. It gives more questions than answers.
Yeah.
In small seconds. But yeah, I usually upload them by the end of the year.
Because even with this practice that we just did, the forgetting, I tend to record it and publish it on social media. And so I'm also thinking about like what's the role of sharing or presenting or performing in these practices as well of remembering or forgetting.
Yeah.
I really think the forgetting practice is actually a remembering practice.
Yeah.
Or a discovering of the complexity of memory, maybe. But I hope I can see your... Perhaps it would be really lovely to see. But thank you so much for dancing with me.
Thank you, Peter.
And we will do it again, I know that.
Yes.
And Happy New Year, anyone who did manage to listen. Great. See you in 2024.
Ciao.